Welcome to Off-Grid News, the news that's not fit to print. The CDC reports that, finally, the United States has seen its first case of flurona. Flurona is when a person is infected with both the flu and the Omicron. This just further proves that Bill Gates and Pfizer needs to continue to step up to the plate to be our savior. We're happy to announce the FDA will start building the first temples where all Americans will be forced to attend each Sunday from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. to give thanks to Bill Gates and Pfizer. Adam Schiff gave his testimony of the events that took place during the Capitol protest. He started out with how the protesters entered the Capitol building calling his name. Here, Shifty, Shifty, Shift. Then they discovered his location where he was wearing a Speedo with the letter S on the front and a cape in the back. He took one protester by the arm and began swinging him around his head like a lasso, knocking out each protester one by one as he swung the man around. He leapt over the protesters, laying unconscious on the ground, where he met a group of GOP congressmen yelling at the protesters to get shifty, shifty, shift. He summarized the story by stating, "This is why we need to end the filibuster." Woke New Yorkers melt down after one man left flyers on cars with New York license plates instructing the car owners to leave Florida. The typed in capital letters flyer read, "If you're one of those woke people, leave Florida. You will be happier elsewhere, as will we." In true woke fashion, many of the car owners called police, terrified of the civil disobedience and terrifying messages. The police investigated the incident and determined that no crime has been committed. Immediately, the woke crowd called Florida congressmen and told them the laws need to be changed to be more inclusive. One congressman asked why they left New York. The caller replied, "The laws there are just too restrictive." Despite Biden spending 90 days in Delaware, Jen Psaki said Biden never gets free time. When the reporter pointed out he has taken more time off than President Trump did, Psaki said, "That's ridiculous. Trump was down in Florida and Biden is in Delaware," leaving the reporter thanking her for clearing up the confusion, leaving one Trump-supporting reporter say, "Do what?" National Geographic writer Cara Cooney wrote in her new book, The Good Kings, that Kyle Rittenhouse killed 2 African Americans, when in fact he shot 3 white men. In a tweet, she stated that she apologized for the minor mistake. She said, "It was a tiny detail, but his white supremacy is still a big problem." Jeff Bezos, the Amazon CEO, pleaded with the media to stop the misinformation of Rittenhouse, in fear that Bezos will no longer be the richest man in America. Scottish newspapers asked readers if Scotland should introduce virus internment camps like Australia. The newspaper was shocked to learn that the majority of respondents to the question reacted in horror. One respondent said, "Freedom!" Dogs are being deployed to find people who are infected with the virus. Police are trading in their drug-sniffing dogs for a virus-sniffing dog. If you're pulled over for a traffic violation, the police officer will approach your vehicle with the dog. If the golden retriever jumps up on your window edge and starts licking your face and wagging its tail, you will immediately be asked to exit the car, lay on the ground, and placed under arrest for suspicion of the infection. You will be asked to submit to a field virus test. If you fail the test, you will be asked to provide your vaccine status. If you have been vaccinated, you will be arrested and placed in isolation for 14 days. If you're not vaccinated, you will be taken to the nearest vaccine injection site for vaccination and then placed in isolation for 14 days. If the dog doesn't lick your face, then you will be detained for drunk driving, since the dogs don't like to lick people's face who have been drinking. Finally, some reasonable measures that I can get behind, said one New York City resident. As a reminder how vital it is to get vaccinated, ground beef sold at Walmart, Kroger, and Albertsons has been recalled for possible E. coli contamination. A reporter asked Biden if the virus is here to stay. Biden said, "No, I don't think the virus is here to stay, but the virus here and in the world is probably here to stay." What? Jimmy Carter said, "Man, this guy can gaslight Americans in the same sentence. Wow, what a talent this guy is." An anti-vaxxer who was urging her social media followers not to get the you-know-what. Just a minute. My producer just informed me that this story was fact-checked and found to be incorrect. All social media outlets would have banned her for doing that. Sorry for the fake news. Is 2 face masks better than 1? A reporter asked. Yes, absolutely, without a doubt. As a matter of fact, use 3, 4, 10. You can have as many masks as you want, Fossey said. My master, Bill Gates, hates bad breath, Igor said. CDC and Biden administration is excited to learn that a mother locked her child in the trunk of her car because the child had the virus and the mother was afraid of being infected by the child while they drove to the testing facility. The CDC stated that it appears people are finally taking the risk of the virus seriously. The downside to the action is the mother is now facing criminal charges for child endangerment. As a result of the incident, the CDC will be working with the automotive industry to develop an isolation capsule to put in the backseat of the vehicle to keep the disease-infested, cootie-carrying heaps of flesh isolated. The capsule will cost $50,000 each. Pfizer will get 50% of the proceeds. Researchers in Cyprus reportedly discovered a virus variant that combines Omicron and Delta. The new strand is called Deltacron. It is expected to wipe out all human life on Earth in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Nope, I'm still here. Pfizer has ordered the CDC to instruct all Americans to get the booster. Scientists in the US and the EU are developing a virus that will develop a viral vaccine. The virus will spread quickly between hosts and will be used like an insecticide to protect crops, or even used like a vaccine to spread immunity from one host to the other. This virus would ensure that everyone would receive a vaccine without the need for any actual injections. The FDA is giving Warp Speed 4.0 on whatever they come up with. Pfizer will most likely buy the technology. Their stocks increased 1,004% after the news was released. Hold on just a minute. Wow. This just in. Fact checkers have been diligently working all weekend to determine if the January 6th protest was as bad as the 9/11 and the attacks on Pearl Harbor as VP Harris stated. The fact checkers from NBC, CBS, ABC, CNN did find evidence that, in fact, January 6th protests were as bad as, if not worse, than 9/11 and the Pearl Harbor attacks. CNN held an hour-long roundtable discussing the findings and came to the conclusion that the controversy of her statement is a right-wing conspiracy to discredit the first female vice president. Brian Stelter said, "It's a shame what has happened to our democracy. Trump and his supporters have damaged this foundation of this country to something unrecognizable, forever lost in the abyss of hatred. It hurts my heart to even think about it." Soon, nearly 380,000 federal employees will be unemployed for non-complying with Biden's vaccine mandate. This is Biden's attempt to follow in France's prime minister's plan to piss off the unvaccinated, leaving one unvaccinated federal employee in Texas to say, "I'm pretty sure us Texans are better at the piss-off game than they are. We invented the game. Good luck, partner. Good luck." Fox News' Brett Barr asked the CDC director if the Supreme Court's Justice Sotomayor numbers of 100,000 children in hospitals on respirators, or if Fox News numbers of 3,500 is correct. The CDC director said unvaccinated, vaccinated, unvaccinated 17 times higher vaccinated, unvaccinated must be vaccinated. Barr interrupted the director to confirm 3,500 children are in hospital, not 100,000. The CDC director said unvaccinated or not vaccinated, meaning they have not received the vaccine. The world may never know. AOC tested positive for the virus while vacationing in Miami, Florida, without her face mask on because, unlike New Yorkers, her home state, Florida doesn't require the mask. She is fully vaccinated and boosted. She is resting with symptoms. During a phone interview, she said she blames Florida Governor Ron DeSantis because he will not mandate masks and vaccines, leaving one Florida reading to say, no matter how hard she tries to sound smart, she always ends up saying something incredibly unintelligent. How is that even possible? You would think just by sheer luck she would say something that makes sense. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi joined Face the Nation. She was asked if she thought an agreement could be achieved. Pelosi said, "Before I get into that, I just want to say I got my 2022 Botox injection and my eyebrows are almost at my hairline now. My New Year's resolution for 2022 is to only have 4 drinks before noon instead of my usual 6. Alec Baldwin is back in the news after he tweeted on Sunday. Turns out he is a really bad actor, just in case you were undecided. Russia forced Nabisco Company to put President Putin's face on Ritz crackers. They're calling it putting on the Ritz. A landmark study conducted by Columbia University has found that the U.S. Supreme Court has now spread more virus misinformation than your crazy aunt who shares conspiracy theories on Facebook. And I want to thank one of the commenters for that. The head of the Democrat National Committee said today, "The strategy for 2022 midterm election is fear. We will make American people so afraid they have no choice but to vote for a Democrat." A scientist and a large contributor of the Democrat Party said a supervolcano at Yellowstone could be 2,000 times larger than that of the eruption of Mount St. Helens in Washington State in 1980. The scientist warned that thousands of people will die from the supervolcano. He noted that only 57 people died from Mount St. Helens. He concluded that the reason so few people died from the eruption was because a Democrat, Jimmy Carter, was in office. His data shows if the eruption would have happened a year later when Reagan was in office, millions would have died. Michelle Obama vowed to register more than 1 million new voters while visiting the largest cemetery in the U.S. Almost half of the New York virus hospitalizations is not due to the virus. Nancy Pelosi said the best way to scare people into voting for Democrats is to lie. After New York Congresswoman AOC was infected by Omicron, she accused the virus of being sexually frustrated and wanting to date her. An intruder entered the house through a chimney and instantly regrets his life choices. It took 24 firefighters to disassemble the house and remove the man from the chimney. When he was asked why he did it, he said he was inspired by, you guessed it. He continued to say, "I have always believed in Santa Claus, and this last Christmas he told me how to go through the chimney." Terrible actor Nicolas Cage told even worse actor Alec Baldwin, "You have to know how to use a gun." Deep and well thought out advice, said CNN. Representative Jordan indicates he won't cooperate with the January 6th witch trials, where 19 people were hanged for witchcraft when they said Trump 3 times out loud. In a rare statement, Clint Eastwood said, "We need more men who are meat eaters and less wimps who eat tofu and drink pumpkin spice lattes." First ever pig to human heart transplant, a Maryland man has lived 3 days with a pig heart beating inside his chest. The first thing he said when he woke up from surgery was, "You knew that was coming." The hospital has listed him with the CDC as a virus patient. Mainstream media hits Biden for avoiding news interviews. Biden has had fewer interviews than 5 presidents before him. The last president to have fewer interviews during the first year of his presidency was Ronald Reagan, who was shot 2 months after his inauguration. In response, Biden said, "Nick Doc, never seen Ceadosm." "Oh, never mind, you know what I mean," he said. CNN media reporter Brian Stelter slammed the CDC during his broadcast of reliable sources on Sunday, saying the organization has turned into a punchline over its response to the pandemic. Stelter specifically made the comments in reference to an interview that CDC Director Rochelle Walensky had recently made with NBC's News' Savannah Guthrie. "All of this mixed messages and new messages has led to a meme on social media poking fun at the CDC's advice. Tweets like, 'CDC now recommends eating straight off the floor at the Waffle House. The CDC now says it's in fact okay to eat Tide Pods.' You know, it's amusing, people letting off steam, of course, but if there's a larger credibility problem with your agency right now. It is so sad, but it's true. The CDC has turned into a punchline. There's a huge credibility crisis for the CDC. It just causes people, if they hear all these mixed messages and all this confusion, it's all too complicated. They just move on and ignore it, much like we do here at CNN." That's all your news that's not fit to print. Share this with your friends on other social media sites. Click subscribe so you get the latest updates. Thanks for watching.